Conservative blogger and commentator Eric Erickson is filling in for Rush Limbaugh on his radio show, and he spoke about the new round of minimum wage protests, and he said this.
What's going on here is you got a bunch of people, by the way, more than 95% of Americans make more than the minimum wage. You should know that. The minimum wage is mostly people who failed at life and high school kids. Seriously, look, I don't mean to be ugly with you people. What? So my producer from my show is in here, and he's just staring at me. Can't believe I said this. If you're a 30-something-year-old person and you're making minimum wage, you've probably failed at life. It is not that life dealt you a bad hand. Life does not deal you cards. It's that you failed at life.
Why is it that Republicans have not been competitive in recent presidential elections? Can't figure out why. Oh, could it be because you're assholes? And, a lot of conservatives and Republicans will spin this as, it's harsh truth is what it is. No, that's nowhere near truth. That's not in the same house. That's not in the same town. That's not in the same city. That's not in the same county. That's not in the same zip code. That's not in the same country as truth. Okay? Oh, you failed at life if you earn minimum wage? No. There are a lot of people who are very, very hard workers who get stuck in minimum wage jobs their entire lives. And guess what? Those jobs are incredibly valuable for society. See, there's this paradox that the conservatives have never answered for on the issue of the minimum wage, where they always argue, as it seems like Eric Erickson is doing here, or it's certainly implied from his argument, that it's totally on you, and you should bust your ass in 9,000 ways to work your way up the ranks to make more money, and if you don't, then, sucks for you. And here's the reality. Even if they did that, let's say everybody who's a minimum wage earner, everybody in the country, period, woke up tomorrow, busted their ass, worked as hard as they could, what would happen? You couldn't promote everybody because you need people to work those minimum wage jobs. If everybody did that, people would beg for people to go back to the minimum wage jobs to work them because we need people to work those minimum wage jobs. So the argument doesn't make any sense because there's an absolute 100% concrete need for people to do those positions and do those jobs. So then the question becomes, if they're going to exist, which they are, how do you treat those people? Do you make them rich and give them mansions and give them Maseratis and Lamborghinis and yachts and vacation homes in the East Hamptons? Do you treat them like indentured servants or wage slaves where they work full-time and they don't make enough money to live? Or do you pick the happy medium and you give them a living wage where they make enough money to survive and they're somewhat comfortable, but they still, if they want to work much harder and try to raise up through the ranks, then they can do that. The debate boils down to this. If somebody works a full-time job, should they make enough money to survive? Yes or no? All rational, intelligent, level-headed people say yes. All dumbass knuckle-draggers say no. And that's the thing, man. There's no sympathy. There's no empathy. There's not even an attempt for a split second for a guy like Eric Erickson to say, okay, do I personally know any minimum wage workers? Have I ever worked a minimum wage job? Do I care to learn about their lives or their histories or why they're at where they're at or what exactly is preventing them from rising up or the 1,000,001 circumstances that surround an individual and what's happening in their lives, whether it's family or friends or financial problems or bills or a medical issue or this or that. There's none of that. It's just judge, 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 judge. And also the irony is they say, but we're Christians. We are the Christian political party. We believe in Jesus' message. Anyway, if you work a minimum wage job, you're a failure at life in every way, shape, and form. And life doesn't deal you cards. Life doesn't deal you cards? I don't even know what that means. The reason why people say, sometimes life deals you a rough card is because sometimes you're Mitt Romney's son, and sometimes you're born with a mother addicted to crack in the middle of Harlem. And what, are you going to say that the person who's born in a very impoverished area with schools that suck and they have textbooks that are 7 years out of date, you're going to tell me that that person has the same shot at making it compared to Mitt Romney's son, who has every advantage under the sun? Son and son. It's a little confusing. You get what I'm saying. That's definitely not true. It's not even close to true. The goal of progressives is to give people an equal opportunity so that then if they don't make it, you can say, well, that's kind of your choice because you have the opportunity to make it. But conservatives, they don't even take that approach. Their approach is just leave everything exactly how it is, and if you're struggling at all in your life in any way, blame yourself. There's no such thing as systematic problems. There's no such thing as an economy that's not perfect. Everything about the way the system works is infallible, and it's on you if you don't make it. I mean, here's just one example of how stupid that is. In 2007, unemployment was, 5%, 4%? And then by 2009, with the Great Recession, it shot up to, 9%, 10%? So if you listen to dumbasses like Eric Erickson, he'll tell you, all those people that just got fired and laid off should have just worked harder. All those people that are now working minimum wage jobs that weren't before, that had higher paying jobs, it's on them just because they're lazy and because they're bad people. Or what's the reality of the situation? What would a progressive tell you? Actually, there was a subprime mortgage loan crisis, and there was a Wall Street crisis and a Great Recession that stemmed from malinvestments and bad decisions and bad incentives for investment banks. And then that led to layoffs all around the country, and people, through no fault of their own, regardless of how hard they worked or didn't, got laid off. Gee, I wonder which scenario is closer to true. The one that is nuanced and complex and detailed and explains to you exactly what happened, or the one that just is incredibly simplistic and pathetic and abrasive and blames individuals for everything ever that's ever happened, and you're just a lazy fuckhead if you don't make $100,000 a year. You tell me.